Alright everyone, this is Andrew Rains with Apex Pro. Thanks for joining us. We're going to do a quick data review session. Thanks to Nick Phillips for sharing his data from PittRace. If you haven't been there, I actually haven't myself, but it looks like a fantastic track. I don't know much about it. I've only watched a YouTube video of the lap. So we're just really going to see what Apex data provides to us and what I can do just with some basic knowledge of how the app works and some basic understanding of how the tire interacts with the track surface and some other things to give Nick some pointers. So we're going to go into data to see our saved sessions here. And you'll see it's coded by the date. So Nick sent me this data on 7/23/18 a couple days ago. Sent me 2 sessions. I'm going to start with the 10:15 or 10:57 a.m. session. That was when he sent it to me that day. So that was shared data. Now remember, to share sessions, just swipe it from right to left. You can share, export, or delete. Just take your finger and swipe it across. So let's start with this morning session. His faster laps were in the later session. But the first thing I'm going to jump in here and do is look at the graph of our lap times. Now to navigate to this screen, you can either swipe across the middle of the screen here or press the arrow to go between screens. Now the reason I'm going to look at our graph of lap times first is I want to see Nick's consistency. I know he's a relatively new driver. He's driving a Volkswagen GTI with some slight modifications. So I just want to make sure that he's improving over the session. So it looks like the lap time's decreasing. Now I'm going to look at Apex score, and Apex score is probably going to do the same thing. It's going to get better each lap. Now the more Apex knows about the car, the more accurate and meaningful the Apex score is. So ideally we'd have 10, 15 laps even to really get a solid understanding of the limit of the car's capabilities. 5 laps is enough. The 4th and 5th lap are going to be the most accurate for the Apex score itself. Now we can also look at average speed here, which is a very telling indicator. And you can see that last lap that was his fastest, the 2:12 lap. Look at that average speed. It was over half a mile an hour quicker than the previous 2 laps. So average speed is always going to be better on a faster lap, and that's an important thing to remember, and that's a good indicator of the overall grip. If you have a high average speed, the next time you're here, say it's in cooler weather, maybe your tires in your car are more responsive to that cooler weather. Now I'm going to go back to the GPS satellite view. This is where it all starts, and this is where we're first going to do some in-depth analysis. Now just quick kind of feature overview. If we toggle this guy, right here in the top left corner, that's going to take us out of the maps view or the satellite view back to the standard Apple Maps view. Now we have a speedometer here on the left and our Apex LED bar here on the right. Those are both interactive. We can move them around. Now we can also flop the screen. If I want a larger view of the track, this is the PittRace facility here, I can move the screen like that. I can rotate it, do all sorts of crazy cool stuff like that. All right, we're going to go back. Just make sure the accelerometers in your phone understand what you're trying to do. And I'm going to go look at his fast lap, or that 2:12.12 lap. What I'm going to do here is press the play button. And we're going to see the car driving around the track. So we're going into the first turn here. Now watch this right here. So we're downshifting possibly from 5th down to 3rd gear. I think he might just be going from 4th to 3rd. But what I want to see is that speed differential. Watch the speedometer. That's probably top of 4th gear. Now he's braking. We can see as soon as the speed starts decreasing and we go from some red lights. So we're going to see constant red lights under consistent acceleration. Now when we see those green lights start to transition and overlap over the red lights, that means that the driver's transition from full throttle into hard braking. So my feedback there, do we see the speed start decreasing? He was on the brake pedal, but we're seeing red lights as we enter the brake zone. There's a couple things here. This isn't a really slow corner, but it's fairly slow, and we need to kill about 40 miles an hour or so. So what I would recommend is carrying more speed into the corner by either braking softer in hopes of getting more green lights, or braking a little bit later and maintaining your brake pressure. Usually it's a little bit easier just to brake softer and try and roll more speed. And that was all I don't have a brake pressure sensor on the car. This is all inertial, but I'm seeing that because the device has learned from the previous laps that there's more potential there. Maybe he's had gone to the brake pedal harder, carried more speed into a corner somewhere else on the lap, and it's taking the similar variables, the similar elevation, similar speed, and it's applying it to this corner here. So that's what's really intelligent about this system. Now we're going to see green overtake the red as he gets to the corner. That's really nice. So we're seeing good grip usage at the middle of the corner, and that's usually where we're going to see green lights. Now the key to remember, it's not just about always seeing the light bar full of green lights at the apex. Okay, that's important. That means that right there you're using good grip. But what's more important is the transition from red to green. You want to see the red lights smoothly disappear. Now, if we want to see our instantaneous grip usage, so sometimes the line will look green, and you'll go, well, I'm getting everything out of the car. There's 100% right there. That's nice. But look, on turn-in, 83.9% usage. Even though the line is green, right there you get higher resolution by looking at your apex percentage. That means that there's more grip there. Right? There's 16% more grip available there. We can look at the same thing here. As you open up the hands, obviously, the car is going to start to excel. So right at the apex, when we have the most steering in the car, that's when the device is always going to understand you're closest to the limit, right? Because you're pushing the front tires the most. We're going to keep replaying the lap here. Now, as we equalize, our steering and straighten out the steering and the car's traveling in a straight line, we're going to start to see more red lights. We're going to keep traveling through the lap. All right, so now we're seeing these red lights again. That means he's probably at wide open throttle. Maybe that's an upshift right there. And now we're going to be coming into the braking zone for the next set of corners here. So again, when we see that speedometer start decreasing, and we see the red lights the green lights overtaking the red lights, that means that we're in a braking zone. All right, so he's braking all the way into here. The other way we can tell that is by looking at a speed trace. So I'm going to back up the lap. This little slider here moves the car across the lap. So if I want to see where that deceleration starts, I can slide over to my speed trace. You see the mile an hour represented, 105 miles an hour at the peak right there. Now I'm going to see that he's going to start braking very heavily. Now I can stretch that speed trace out, and what I can see there is the rapid decel rate. All right, so he's decelerating very hard. Now if I want to see if I'm doing that right, I can overlay it with another lap. Now this is interesting. All right, look how much faster he came in here on the previous lap. So we have miles per hour on the left, distance on the bottom. All right, this is going into the corner complex right here. And if we press play, you'll see the cars start to race there. Now to overlay the laps, that's very important to know. Originally I just had the first lap selected. To select a second lap to overlay, press and hold, and you'll see the red check mark appear next to that lap. Now the blue lap is the fast lap here, the 212, the 213 lap is the red. So now I want more resolution. So look, I can tell that the faster lap's already ahead here. And my guess is that the blue car is going to pull away, and it is. Now, why was that? Was that because he got on the throttle earlier exiting, or he carried more speed on the entry? We don't know just by looking at this. Just a rough guess. Now, if I go back over to the speed trace, now I can really tell. So not only did he carry more speed in, see how the graph is taller here on the blue? I can actually move it over like this so we can really see. This is entering the corner right here. The graph is taller, so it gets more speed entering. He brakes about the same place. The trace starts to trail off about the same place, but his minimum speed, the slowest speed in the corner, is substantially higher on the blue lap. Substantially higher. It's probably just over 50 miles an hour and looks like about 47, 48 miles an hour on the red lap. Now that's a big difference, 3 miles an hour. Right, and he's also on the throttle about the same time. So that blue lap is what he wants to be emulating every single time. All right, and now this is the next complex of corners here. So we'll go back to this screen. I'm going to go back to the GPS view. And I'm going to play through here. Watch him accelerate using good grip through there. Now if we go, the lights here are going to represent the leading laps of the blue lap. We can still tap and see our apex score. All right. And our goal here, we see that big 29 gap right there. So that's the transition between loading the car and turning to the left and turning to the right. Now, that score is going to be higher. It's always going to be lower because we're not utilizing the, right, there's a transition. The car is not able to utilize the grip fully when it's going from a hard left to a hard right. But what we want to see is that number increase, because that means that we're going to be carrying, basically, the speed is going to be higher there. And we're using more of the grip if that number gets higher. So we can see that. Now, we can also see speed or any other variable at any point on the lap. So I want to see, how fast was I going right here? 68 miles an hour. It's 87 miles an hour. So we can see that. Now that's really helpful. I'm going to replay the lap again. And again, now what I kind of do is I play the back and forth with the speed trace. Now sometimes you'll notice this guy will be all green. And when you go in and you tap the line on Apex score, it might be 100 or it might not be. Now what that's telling me there, let's replay this. So we're coming in, good hard braking. Look at that, all green. Now as we go up the hill, he lost some grip there. So what we might have done there, there's several things that can happen if we lost that grip entering the corner. We should be gaining grip. So this means 100% apex score. Again, I don't have brake pressure in the car. He went to maximum grip usage. That means ABS threshold braking going into this corner right here. Now this shouldn't drop off from 97 to 82 right there in a matter of a couple of feet, right? It should be more steady than that. Okay, that means that the driver probably popped off the brake pedal a little bit too quickly and maybe induced an understeer and the grip usage decreased, right? He all of a sudden was over the limit, or he just overslowed. That initial braking was too hard. Right, so it's really important that we find the progression of the lights as we enter the corner. So let's watch the light bar again as we come in here. And hard braking all the way to green. Watch the transition here. Look at those red lights pop up on the light bar there. I believe the driver was on intermediate setting on the skill level. On expert, we probably would have seen a few more red lights there. But what we want to optimize, if you see that in car in real time, what that means is that would probably be a softer brake. Right? Brake softer and roll more speed in. Because now we can go back to our speed trace. We can see on the blue lap, his minimum speed was later. Okay, so now this analysis, this is really good, but it'd be more relevant to be doing this immediately after the session because you would know, oh, hey, I caught traffic here. And in that case, you would make a note, say caught traffic, exiting turn, whatever. Okay, so now let's go and look at his faster lap from his other session. So to overlay laps from another session, tap add another session at the bottom. I'm going to hit the other session that he sent me, and I'm going to overlay this fast lap, the 212.12 lap, with his fastest lap of the day, which was a 209.57, which is a substantial jump. And what we'll probably notice, look at that, gain some major confidence. See the blue lap, which is our faster lap? All the minimum speeds at the valleys, except for this guy. Right there, that's interesting, or higher, right? Minimum corner speed is so big. It's actually not higher here. I'm sorry, the red lap is the faster lap. I just confused myself. So the red lap is the faster lap. The red lap has the higher minimum corner speeds, and that is why it's faster. I should have known that just by looking at it. So the red lap is the fast lap. So what we'll probably see, if we go back to his fast lap and we replay this same part of the track here, replay, we'll probably see better grip usage in here. Now this is the red car. There we go. Only one red LED as opposed to two red LEDs. That's pretty good. All right, so there's improvement there. So the apex score is really powerful. What you'll find yourself in the car is sometimes you tend to see what you want to see on the device. Right? But what you really need to focus on to improve is after the session, go in and figure out what it was telling you where it was showing those red lights, and start to adapt your vision to be able to take that in while you're on track. And the way you learn to do that is through the post-session tools here. So this replay is just really, really nice. So now I want to see, okay, who got on the throttle, who accelerated better out of this corner, my 209 lap or my 212 lap? Where was the difference? I'm going to go back over to the speed trace. I'm going to find the number. There it is right there, 68 miles an hour. That's where we are, where this is pinpointed. Again, look at the previous corner. The red lap was a much, much higher entry speed. Now what this jagged line tells me accelerating is that he got on the power, and then he probably cracked out of it just a little bit, because look at the blue line, it's steeper. Okay, so accelerate steeper, it actually intersects right here, and then that looks like an upshift to me. So what that's telling me is that because of his minimum corner speed was so much higher on the red lap, even though he didn't get on the throttles aggressively and get to wide open throttle as soon as he did on the blue lap, he's actually faster all the way down the straightaway. Now also for the next set of corners, we're braking a little bit earlier on the red lap, which is the faster lap again. Earlier and softer. So we can tell how hard we're braking to some extent by the trace here, right? Because you see how it trails off kind of slowly. The slope is more gradual on the red line. That means the rate of deceleration was slower. So that means we went to the brake pedal softer. On the blue line, we waited longer and braked harder. All right, so that's just kind of a simple analysis there. And then the line actually gets steeper here on the blue line. He's more consistently braking here with the red line. The blue, he braked harder, and he stayed there, and he stayed in it at the end. We actually want to see, if we know it's a trail braking corner, I don't know this corner per se, this would be for Nick to decide. If we know it's a trail braking corner, we want to see that slope actually start to even out towards the apex of the turn or towards your minimum corner speed, because that means the rate of acceleration is slowing as you approach the corner. If the rate of acceleration is slowing as you approach the corner, you probably have just a fraction of brake pedal applied. All right, and then we go back, and now we can see that he's on the throttle, and my assumption here would be that he cracked out of the throttle, but then he got to wide open throttle sooner than he actually did, or more throttle in general, on the blue lap, and so the red lap is faster all the way down. And again, if you want to figure out where that is on the track, just go back to the GPS view. But really, we get very, very high resolution from that speed trace. And you can move these around. So the overlaying feature is really helpful. And the reason we want to overlay our fast lap with another lap, so maybe this is fast lap from this session, fast lap from that session. Now also you notice an increase in apex score, better grip utilization on the fast lap, which leads me to believe that fast lap could have been had in this session as well. And the reason I like to compare apex scores is because apex score is taking into account the speed, the acceleration, and 9 axes of the car, and it's piecing that together to build a grip model. And it's more relevant to know how much of the grip that you're using, of the available grip, than the lap time, because even though this is all on the same day, say Nick comes back 6 months from now, well, if it's cooler, 6 months, pit race probably open in 6 months. In 3 months, the weather's cooled down, and he's able to carry a lot more minimum speed through the corners. He'll do the same exact thing. He can pick out his fast lap. He'll pick this 209 from the last time he was here. He can pick the fast lap from his next session, and he can go in and look at his speed trace. And if he's consistently seeing, all my minimum speeds are a little bit higher, well, that means there might be more grip out there. If he's seeing that his apex score is consistently not a 73 or 75, but a 77, or maybe it dropped, and 77 means he would have improved, but maybe he's running a 209 with a 72 apex score. There's probably more grip available total on the track. That would mean that the track itself got grippier and he's driving about the same. Conversely, if the apex score were to increase and the lap time is to decrease, so it's a 210 and he's running a 76 apex score, that means he's driving the car more. He's getting more out of it. All right, and apex score becomes really relevant once you start to piece in. Now, see how the lap disappeared there? That's a Google Maps thing. Just select another lap and it'll come back, if that ever happens to you. All right, now what do these mean here? So the different tickers that we can select. So time, obviously, is time. Most of these, really the only ones we're going to use on this screen are going to be apex score, speed, AX, which is acceleration in the longitudinal axis, and AY is the acceleration in the lateral axis. You can see on a straightaway, you're really not going to be accelerating to either side, but you can see in the middle of the corner, you're close to 1G, just over 1G at the apex of the corner there. So you can correlate that with your speed through the corner and see if you're actually carrying more speed when you're pulling more G's or not. GZ is going to be rotation. It's going to be yaw, car doing that. AX is something that you can see really nicely in like a braking zone. We're going to go from positive acceleration to negative acceleration. And what you can find out there, if you're going into a threshold braking zone, is you can figure out what decel rate your car can achieve. And if you're going into a threshold braking zone, you want to get to that decel rate immediately. You want to get to that negative G immediately. And you can also plot stuff like that on the lap here, so you can go and do more analysis on what your G's are going to look like. And remember, you can turn the screen to get more resolution. All right. So that's just a quick overview. Those are the things that I would touch on if I were Nick. Now, my process is to pull this up in between sessions and actually review some of this data in between sessions. Now, what you got to be careful to do is not to overload yourself, right? So just take 2 or 3 corners where you know that there's more. Maybe you know that before you even look at the data. But hop in here, replay your lap, watch your LEDs, and find a couple places where the device is showing your red lights either in a braking zone or in a corner, and then seek to go out and do it better the next lap. And then add in your other sessions and compare each session as you improve, hopefully throughout the day. Spend 5 minutes in between sessions, and it will change your world. Enjoy.